Bill O'Brien has been fired. We got a double dose of Monday Night Football this week. And the Gadget guys top our power rankings for the second week in a row. All of that and more in 20 seconds. Hey, fellow fanatics, welcome to the Fanatically Real broadcast sponsored by Football, Darts, and Fantasy Sports Alliance. Welcome to everybody who has joined us tonight. We appreciate you. First, we'd like to thank our broadcast sponsor, Football Darts. Football Darts is a dart game that combines the skill of traditional darts with the strategies of American football. This innovative dart game is played on a uniquely designed multiple target dartboard. Unlike traditional British darts, American football darts is a game that combines both the skill of darts and the strategies of football. It can be played in sports bars, at tailgate events, as league tournaments, or as a leisure activity in the comfort of your home. If you would like to check out their officially licensed collegiate dartboards, go to footballdarts.com. And they have a new place that you can go out and shop for them now online at Target and at Wayfair. So congratulations to Football Darts for getting their reach out to those two markets. They say an empty wagon makes a lot of noise. Listen to our partners, Josh, Eric, and Brad talk fantasy football on their podcast, The Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast. They are your one-stop shop for fantasy football information and news. The guys talk rankings and projections with a whole lot of comedy. Like they have over the last couple of weeks, they put out two shows again this week, which was the Week 4 preview and the Week 4 recap. I really like how they presented their heroes and villains during the preview show this week, and then they came back during the recap show and kind of validated themselves and who they picked for their heroes and villains. If you are not listening to the Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast, you are doing fantasy football wrong. Make sure you go over and give them a download. You can find them on Anchor at anchor.fm. Go there, subscribe to their show, follow them on their social media. They can be found at Empty Wagon FF. And for all of you that are watching on YouTube tonight, we very much appreciate you. We are at 106 subscribers. We couldn't be doing that without you. If you like the show tonight, whether you're watching it on Facebook or YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this for us, and we would very much appreciate it. Let's get into some NFL news. But before we do, Kevin, how are you this week?
I am doing well. How about yourself?
Not bad. How'd you do in fantasy football this week across all your leagues?
FSA-wise, I did well. I went 3-0 in FSA thanks to the hands or lack thereof of Calvin Ridley. Outside of that, overall, I went 3-2. Put up some big numbers, but was outperformed by even bigger performances, if I can get that out.
Yeah, I went 4-2 this week, and the two that I lost were because of Ridley taking a goose egg for me as well. MJ's on says week 5. Woot, MJ, how are you? How is vacation? Let us know how that's going. Hey, let's talk about some NFL news. So Bill O'Brien, head coach of the Texans, is fired. Surprised that he was the first coach that was fired before Adam Gase?
I don't think so. I think that it's a little bit of a different situation because he was both the head coach and GM there. So when you make bad trades and your bad locker room presence, like he was, it doesn't really make for a great combo. So you can't really just strip one title from him. So you have to oust them altogether. To me, I'm not sure really how Jets fans feel, but I think Adam Gase is a pretty good coach. I would like him to stay put, personally.
That's reverse psychology there. He's not a good coach. You're only saying that because you want the Patriots to continue doing well.
That's true. Guilty as charged.
Jared Ryan says, evening, boss man, loving the shirt. Thank you. Appreciate this. A very nice shirt. This Cheryl Storm actually got this shirt for me a while back. Very much like this shirt. And Damian says, couldn't have said it better myself. Brian, Empty Wagon is my go-to for fantasy football podcast. It's because they are awesome. What the product that they put out is amazing. So if you're watching this and listening to this right now and you haven't gone out and started listening to them yet, like Damian says all the time, you're doing fantasy football wrong if you're not listening to him. So make sure you go out and listen. All right, so we had a double Monday night football game this week because the New England and Kansas City game got moved to Monday night because of COVID scares. Not really a whole lot to talk about there, but that kind of segues us into COVID scares for this week because Tennessee Titans have placed wide receiver Corey Davis on the team's COVID-19 list. Titans outbreak has now lasted over a week, and their Week 5 game against the Bills is very much up in the air. We're going to get to it in a little bit when we talk about our odds or our predictions for the primetime games for this week. When I was out visiting to get those numbers tonight, there is no odds, or there are no odds out there right now for the Bills-Tennessee's game. So the odds taker are not taking any money or any bets at the moment because they're not sure what's going to happen with that game. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think it's definitely a situation to watch. I think that if they do postpone it, it's going to be tough because now you have Tennessee. It's not like you can move Tennessee's bye around anymore because you've already used it. So then you have to start to think to yourself, do you implement the Week 18, which they had already thought about, or because it's of lack of following rules, do you strip Tennessee of the game and give them a loss? But if you do that, you automatically hand the Bills a win without actually having to compete. So does that tip the scales, competitively, where they say any given Sunday a team can come out and win, especially with 2-3-0 teams. Although Tennessee, I think, being the weaker team anyway, and will lose if they do play. But I think it's just a tough situation, a situation that we've never been in before. Talking about either a second bye for teams or stripping wins or anything like that. So definitely something to keep an eye on. Not anything that I could probably predict to see which direction they're going to go, just because two more Titans were confirmed today, and none coming off the list that I know of. So it's only getting worse rather than better.
So from a fantasy standpoint, let's say, should we, with our lineups, be cautious right now? Should we be doing just like what we did when we were getting ready to be cautious with New England and Kansas City playing? Do we bench our Buffalo and Tennessee players at the moment? That game is on Sunday. Do we just have a backup plan in mind? Is that what we're looking for right now?
So as of right now, if the game is slated to still play Sunday, I would have a backup plan, right? So if I have Josh Allen, if I have Devin Singletary or Diggs, which I do have, if I have any of those higher scoring guys, that's a normal start. I leave him in for Sunday in the hopes that he plays with a contingency plan to put in someone else on Sunday altogether. If it comes out that the game is being postponed till Monday or Tuesday, I bench them automatic, and I'm looking to move away from them because that's when you start to get into the territory where you run out of players to replace them with, to where if it doesn't happen, it may be too late to actually make the replacement. So if I have somebody like the Bills defense or a kicker from either team, I'm looking to just replace them out the gate. As a fantasy perspective goes, it's no harm, no foul there. If I have a bigger name player, I'm leaving them in for now until you get a little bit more information. If the game starts to get pushed, then definitely look to replace them overall.
So I made the comment in the household earlier today about them possibly forfeiting the game, right, and giving Buffalo the win, because the NFL doesn't care about fantasy, right? They're going to do what's best for the league.
Yep.
Although they still want that television revenue, right? They still want that game to be televised somewhere and what that looks like. But from a league standpoint, let's say there is a forfeit, right? I look at that as the tiebreaker. So the way the NFL goes through in tiebreakers is if you are tied in record at the end, it is head-to-head record, and then it is conference record, and then it is games commonly played, which would be all of the same schedule that they're already having right now, where they're playing everybody inside their division. One, in this case, they're both AFC teams, so a division of AFC teams and the conference of NFC teams, and then it's total points. So if and maybe there is. Maybe, you know what? Maybe we should have dug into the NFL rules a little bit. Maybe they have a section for forfeiting of games. I'm sure in the 20s, when the NFL was being played, it probably happened. If we're going back and digging into a record book back then, maybe, it's definitely something I'm going to research as soon as we get off the show tonight and find out what it looks like for forfeiting of games. Damien says, I'd go in expecting the Bills not to play. I have Josh Allen. I've had to pick up alternates today at quarterback just to be safe. That probably not a very bad strategy. I've also got Josh Allen, and I'm just keeping my fingers crossed because there's really nobody left out there in the Superflex league for that. And then let's see. I also have to remember that while unfortunate, you have to play one quarterback. Yes, we do have to play one quarterback. So let's talk about a few more things, a few more pieces of NFL news. We've got Chris Godwin from Tampa Bay, wide receiver, is definitely out already, has been ruled out with a hamstring issue, as have Leonard Fournette, running back for Tampa Bay, already been ruled out. I think Mike Evans is also banged up from that game. That is our Thursday night game, so we will be getting to our predictions on that in a little bit. So just to let you know, in case you didn't already know, Kev, that most of Tampa Bay is banged up right now.
Yeah, and the scary thing is that you look at that team and you would think, okay, potential number one receiver banged up, receiver number two out, running back number one out. You would think that, hey, that's going to hurt a team, but then you look at, they still have Rojo, they still have Brait, they still have Gronk. There's so many other weapons there. It almost becomes unfair, when you have teams with that type of depth. Um, but we'll see how it plays out because you also have to take into consideration the chemistry between those players. The players that we named are the favorite targets within that, so that may have an effect on our projections in a little bit. But definitely a situation to watch, fantasy perspective wise, especially coming up on the game just here tomorrow. So
Yes.
all bigger names to watch as far as having to replace now.
Washington football team has named quarterback Kyle Allen as the starter for Week 5 after benching of Dwayne Haskins. So then I saw a couple pieces of news after the fact. Not only is Allen the starter right now, Alex Smith is the backup, and their practice squad quarterback is now third on the depth chart, with Haskins fourth on that depth chart. So
Really?
That came out a bit ago before we went live. So very interesting there. And you could tell by the video that they were showing, Haskins is just really bummed about it as well. But maybe a wake-up call for him. Maybe that he now realizes he's going to have to do a little bit more work. That all being said, after the argument you told me earlier about somebody saying that Dwayne Haskins was going to have a better career than Kyler Murray, which is laughable. Big Ten never really produces great quarterbacks anyways. I don't know why anybody thought he was going to come into the league and do a good job. But yeah, there you have it. And there's a reason Kyle Allen ended up going from Carolina to Washington with Coach. He sees something in the kid. So maybe he had a couple good games last year, 2 of them, I believe. I actually had to pick him up in one of my leagues and start him, but then those are the only 2 good games that he had. That was it.
Well, I don't know if I would necessarily hold that against Kyle Allen because he was put into a situation where he was not running an offense built for him, and he was not running an offense that was passing centric. So what could you really show off if you're a newer, younger, up and coming quarterback? You're stepping into a role where you're taking over for Cam, which is very RPO, play action. Let Cam run with the ball stuff with his legs, which Allen can do and did a little bit, but he does have a bigger arm, I believe, than Cam has, or at least has shown he's better in the pocket as far as staying in there and not having to move around as much. And then you figure with Chris McCaffrey all last year with what he did, did you ever really have to show off, your secondary skills? It's your first read, then CMC, or hand it off to him. So there's nothing you really had to do there. So
He really did leverage CMC quite a bit while he was in that
Yeah.
spot. But why wouldn't you? You know, rookie quarterbacks are going to do that. They're going to use their dump off guys and they're going to use their tight ends. That's why I always like taking tight ends of teams that have rookie quarterbacks like a Cincinnati, trying to pick them up because that's just what they do. It's a natural thing for them to go through the progressions. They have to go through them a whole lot quicker whenever they're at the NFL than when they had to in college. So they like to use that dump down quite a bit. But Brady's made a living on that. So
Right.
I guess it doesn't matter if you're a rookie or if you've been in the league for 20 years. So, and the last piece, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say. I mean, if I think that's the biggest key, right? If we look at a guy that's been in the league 20 years and has been doing the same thing, then why not? Why is that trend not held up more? And you get guys that bash Breeze for doing the same thing, and with him and Michael Thomas and Kamara, but there's a progression of reads, and if and I think that is where you separate the good, not greats within the league, is who uses their check down correctly. If that's your third read, I'm going to, read 1, 2, 3 as fast as I can, get it to my dump off, and I'm still upright on the field. I'm not holding the ball. I'm not taking sacks. I'm not trying to force the big, the deep ball because I'm not waiting for that third progression to open up and throwing interceptions. So I think that when you start to see people read their underneath guy more is when not only do you see fantasy numbers start to rise because you're looking at more passing yards because they're getting more up pace, more attempts within the within the game, and then you're looking at yards on the receivers end too, as far as receptions go. So I think that the check down is underused, and I hope Allen does use it this week and does it well.
So Damien asks if you have on an Evil Empire hoodie. Yes, he
Yes, I
does.
do.
Yes, he does.
Yes,
So
I do.
you know what that means, Damien? We got to get you a Mad Scientist store. So I got a long weekend ahead of me. I got some things that I need to do here for the show, things that we need to do for the website. But there is nothing that says that I can't get you a store started as well. So let's get this last piece of NFL news that I have in here, which isn't really news. The Jets are going to start Joe Flacco at quarterback versus the Cardinals over Sam Darnold because of his injury. Probably not a lot of huge fantasy news there. I know I've dropped Sam Darnold already earlier in the redraft league. I dropped him just today in the arm and leg league. So I don't know if it really has a lot of fantasy impact at this point.
I mean, I think it does if you are a team like in Damien's situation. I know he mentioned it a little bit earlier to where he's had to go out and get a quarterback because he has Allen.
Yeah.
There it is there. So he's had to go out and pick up a quarterback. I believe he did pick up Flacco to be safe. So if you're looking at that perspective, you are getting a lot deeper as far as quarterbacks go. You're looking at Haskins getting benched, the injury problems in Denver, the games being postponed, Cam having COVID and still not 100% cleared yet. So a change in pace quarterback, a veteran coming in, and Flacco maybe shows off his arm a little bit, gets Crowder into it a little bit more.
If
could
he
have,
plays.
yeah, could have
if he
some,
plays as well.
yeah, could have some potential upside there.
All right, before we get into these games of the week, we got a little bit of an impromptu for you. We weren't sure if we were going to be able to pull this off tonight or not. Got a picture to show you all. Fantasy Sports Alliance is sponsoring a 5 to 6 year old flag football team this year. Here are the jerseys hot off the presses. We're getting to see them for the first time tonight. And in addition to the jerseys that you see there, we got their head coach with us tonight, who also happens to be an FSA member. We've got Bill the Third on with us tonight, or tonight we're going to call him Coach Bill. Coach Bill, how are you?
Hey, I tell you what, preseason is over. We got our first game coming up Saturday. Real proud of the kids so far. They're proud to have FSA on their jerseys. So we're glad we were able to partner with the Alliance on this.
So we are the FSA Lions. Is that correct?
That's right. We didn't get to pick the name, but we picked the sponsor, right? So, I tell you, the offense is really coming together. We're a systems team, right? We're really leveraging, misdirection, right? I guarantee the defense will not know which way it's going because the offense doesn't either. You find out when they run it, right? So having a lot of fun. Glad to have FSA on there, and yeah, we're all happy to
Have
be
they
here.
have they figured out which direction to run after they get the ball? Or are they still learning that part too?
Usually, but they like to circle back for some reason, So sometimes we kind of do a couple laps on our way to the end zone. But it's good. They're having a lot of fun. They're learning the sport of football.
I hear you've got one outstanding kid that's on the team. Kid's name is Major.
Yeah, Major's going to
That's
carry the
awesome.
team. I think quite the stud.
That is pretty awesome. So let me show it one more time for everybody out there so you can see the FSA jerseys for the year. Bill, thank you for coming on tonight. You're going to stick with us, right, for the rest of the show?
Yep, I'll hang out.
All right, cool. Hey, so let's get into these games of the week. You're going to see something a little bit different this week as we were highlighting what we said was supposed to be the game of the week this week. And that was the number 15 Chris Betts against the number 16 Assassins out of the New England region. The Assassins end up staying undefeated. Both of these teams were 3-0 coming into this game. Assassins get that win 152-116. So we're going to go to the rest of the games of the week. At the very top of this, you're going to see the same repeat of that game we just talked about, which was the New England region game between the Assassins and the Chris Betts. Again, final score there 152-116. In the Appalachian region, the Nihilists are now one of the 5 remaining teams in all of the alliance that is undefeated. They didn't score heavy this week, but they still took the win 123-107 over the Meyerwolf. I believe Meyerwolf are still looking for their first win of the season. And even with that win and staying undefeated, the Nihilists dropped pretty far in the power rankings this week. And you can see what happens to that all-play record when you don't score well. So that 123 dropped them quite a bit. The Killers of the Great Lakes region, not only did they remain undefeated after week 4, but they climbed 27 spots in the power rankings all the way to the number 2 spot. And they did so with a 176-140 win over the River Monsters, giving the River Monsters their first loss of the season. In the South Atlantic region, we cannot stress this one enough. The Lumiere put up the most points in FSA history this week against yours truly, Lumiere against the Monarchs. Lumiere puts up 235 points, which ends up being a 96-point margin of victory. Final score there is 235-139. A very embarrassing loss, I will say, but fortunate enough, it was still enough points to keep my all-play record up there pretty well. I got 2 more quality wins out of it this weekend, and I stayed right in the same spot that I was already at in the power rankings, and we'll see those here in a little bit. In the Gulf Coast region, the Rum Runners are quietly making a stand down there with the Gulf Coast Serpents. They are now 4-0 and 9th in the power rankings after they defeated the Rough Riders 139-97. And even though you're only going to see one game of the week on the screen for the Western region, we do have 2 mentions this week. The first one is the Factory of Sadness, because they put up the second highest points in FSA history this week with a 228-137 win over the Wildcats. Both of those teams are now 2-2. And in that same region, we had our margin of victory game for the entire alliance as the West Coast Avengers beat the Front Range Tiburones with a margin of victory of .54. Final score there was 133.76-133.22. Do you have anything that you would like to highlight from those games of the week before we move on to our dynasty teams?
Yeah,
I don't want to.
We're definitely.
I was just going to say, Brian, the teams that play Brian seem to do really well. So I think that's a good luck charm when you're playing an FSA.
No. See, the thought was, yes, you can mention anything except for my big loss to the Lumiere. That's the only thing you're not allowed to do right now. It was huge, but you know what? It's really awesome to see Jared score that big. And I even told him Unless somebody breaks that record this year, that's probably going to stand for quite a while, because I think we're going to make some adjustments to quarterback scoring next year, which is going to drop them down a little bit. So that record might stay there for quite a while unless somebody comes back around and knocks him off this week. And not only did he score that many points, but if you look at some other leagues that do what's called coaches rating, where they take the number of points that you scored versus the number of points you could have scored, meaning you left points on the bench. He left 0 points on the bench. So he had 100% coaches rating this week and put up 235 points. He had a really great week. Definitely can't fault him for that at all. Kev, what do you got?
I was just going to mention, the absolute lineup that he had put up this week. Tom Brady, 42 points. Dalvin Cook, 33 points. Odell, 39 points. 14 points out of his kicker, the kicker from the Colts, Blankenship, who leads the league in scoring right now. So, job well done to him on setting a perfect lineup. And I would have to agree with you on that score standing for a little while, because I don't think everyone clicks on that many on every cylinder that well week in and week out. But good job this week coming in. And I do have to, shed a tear for you. I don't think it would have helped you much, but having Ridley didn't help either of you gentlemen this week, I would assume.
No, did not. I don't think I had him in this league, though, so it wouldn't have mattered anyways. So, I had Jared Ryan is actually in the office with me, right? He just wrote, "I'm glad I got to beat my boss." Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. So we were looking at his scores. All of those great scores that you just mentioned, but he had the top 5 at every single one of the positions this week, except for the defense was the only one he didn't. And it was either his running backs or his wide receivers. 2 of them fell in the top 5 this week. So just an impossible way. And I also agree this one's going to stand for a while, because now we're finally truly getting into the bye weeks for the season. We're not going to be able to play our studs every single week. COVID's already damaging everything. So I do believe that score stands for quite a while. All right, let's get back over to these games of the week. And since we're talking about history, we are going to talk about the game of the week from the Alpha region, or the Alpha Dynasty League. We mentioned last week we were getting a historical matchup of the very first game in NFL history against the Columbus Panhandles and the Dayton Triangles. 100 years later, these two teams face off against each other on the fantasy side. Columbus Panhandles traveling to Dayton, Ohio. Dayton got that win 100 years ago. Dayton gets the win again this year. Final score there was 189 to 108 over the Columbus Panhandles. In the Bravo Dynasty League, the Brooklyn Lions remain one of 2 undefeated teams left in that league, with a win over the Bridgeport Jets. Final score there was 167 to 137. In the Charlie League, we had a fairly close game to keep the Scottish Claymores undefeated, as they knocked off the Buffalo All-Americans 174 to 152. That was the closest game in that league this week. And then week 4 started off with the Orlando Apollos as the only undefeated team left in the Delta Dynasty League. And at the conclusion, we have 0 teams that are left undefeated in the Delta Dynasty, as the New York, New Jersey Knights took them out with a final score of 203 to 141. Kevin, I know you're going to have special interest in those Dynasty games, because that last one we just mentioned of the New York, New Jersey Knights was, in fact, you over the Apollos. How's it feel to beat the last undefeated team in that league?
That definitely feels extremely good, to get that win and start to roll in a couple wins. Being my first year into Dynasty, especially with the longer or larger bench sizes, it was kind of a learning curve to get used to. And when you go out to the waivers and you see that there's absolutely nobody there, and having to do some wheeling and dealing. I know that Damien is in my inbox almost every single day trying to get me to trade out some running backs. For what reason, I don't know. I feel like he's got enough, but definitely nice to beat an unbeaten and to remain the best team in New York, New Jersey region.
We're going to go with that, right? When do we face off in the Delta with our 2 New York, New Jersey teams? You have to look at that.
I'm not sure of. I'll have to take a look at that.
Yeah. So since you're talking about trades with Damian, I think there's another guy in the room right now that probably has feeling some woes of some trades with Damian. Bill, how'd you fare this week?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about trades with Damian. Damian, stay out of my DMs. Not interested.
It's been interesting, and I know Eric's out there right now, and he said, "Damn, my game didn't make the game of the week." But I will say that you are definitely stirring some action this week, as I think you've hit everybody's box trying to get some kind of trade. I know I got one. I'm pretty sure MJ got one. If not, I know Rocky definitely got a trade offer from you. So you have definitely been active this week in the South Atlantic region. So yeah, keep and Eric, I will say that the trade that you offered me was not bad. You've really got me thinking about it. I think the biggest thing for me is waiting to see if the Green Bay tight end can do it again. But we have to wait 2 weeks before we know if that's going to happen because they're on bye this week. So we'll see what happens. I might be turning around and sending you that exact same trade offer in about 2 weeks. All right, so let's get back over and finish up these games of the week. Let's get over to our QB54 arm and leg league. In the AFC, MJ earned the most points of the week as she got 37 points to be able to defeat Brian Lewis. Final score there, 37-7. And then the NFC saw a tie between Cody T and John F. Both teams scored 14 points, but it's pretty easy for John to come away when Cody decided not to set a backup player for that tiebreaker, so he took a 0. So John F. ends up getting that win this week. Does anybody have any comments about the QB54 Arm and Leg League? Bill, how are you doing in that one?
Not great. I just realized because I'm an idiot and picked 3 quarterbacks, I got to pick up a kicker real quick. But
that's awesome. I mean, there's been a lot of fun with this. I mean, I'm dropping quarterbacks. I've already replaced kickers this year. And again, like, it doesn't matter the size of this league. It's hard to find talent right now. When we've got 12 teams per, people are holding 2 or 3 quarterbacks or 2 or 3 kickers, depending on however that works out. And it's been hard. I ended up getting lucky enough, I feel, to drop Sam Darnold today and pick up Teddy Bridgewater in that league and have to use Teddy as my tiebreaker this week because, well, I'm going to use him as – I guess I have to because the backup kicker that I have is on bye this week. So Teddy is my only option for tiebreaker this week. Kev, are you playing in that one with us?
I am not, unfortunately. I did not make the deadline in time.
You will be playing next year, though.
Correct.
All right, cool. Just make sure you're there.
Yeah.
All right, so hey, let's get to these power rankings. We're going to show you the power rankings as they are, the top 25 presented to you this week by Deep South Creations. As we said at the top of the show, the Gadget Guys remained number 1 for the second week in a row. Killers jumped those 27 spots all the way to number 2. Some notable mentions that are on there. The Nihilist did drop pretty far, all the way down to number 18. The Lumières did land in the top 25 with that big win over myself. And I think that's probably the biggest notables of the week. I guess I have to rib Kev just a little bit as the Mad Scientists are still on top of the Evil Empire. And I know that Damien has not let you forget that already this week. How you feeling about that number 5 spot there?
I mean, I would like to say that I'm not happy about it, but unfortunately, it's all about the multiplier in the quality wins. Me and Damien are both tied for record with 1 loss apiece, and then I believe he has a higher score than me, overall score, just slightly. But obviously, the all-play record is where he gets me. I'm hoping to change that around this week, but can't hold the Empire down for too long. I'll be back on top with their crown.
Eric O'Neill, general manager of the Gadget Guys, says, I'm number 1. I'm number 1. Yeah, and you've got a pretty substantial lead, too, if you're able to actually see the points that are out there. If you go out on our website, www.fsa-fr.com, and click on the Power Rankings tab there, you'll get to see the Power Rankings and see what the actual numbers are. And I think you've got at least a 2 or pretty close to a 2-point advantage over the team that's behind you. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's significant with the way the math is done for this year. So good job, Gadget guys. Now, I think you even said it on your guys' show, the Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast, that the bye weeks are coming up, and I think that's going to change a lot of people around in the FSA. All right, so we've got a couple of games we would like to highlight for week 5. And I don't think Sean's on there right now. I wish he was, because the game that I play against him this week is going to be the game of the week in all of the Alliance. And I'm going to show the power rankings again so you can see why. It's going to be number 13 versus number 14, the Monarchs versus the Naughty Dogs. It's a little bit of a revenge game for Sean. Not only are both of us 3-1, but I, with my very bad team last year, took him out late in the season, which eliminated his playoff chances. And I'm sure he's coming back and looking for revenge. So that is going to be the Alliance game of the week this week. And then in the Bravo Dynasty League, there's going to be a great head-to-head matchup between the Ohio Glory and the Jacksonville Sharks. Both of those teams are 3-1, and their overall point total for the year is separated by less than a point. So that should be a very good game between those two teams this week as well. All right, Kev, it's time for primetime football. How are we doing for the season between you, me, and Josh?
Well, one of us is doing pretty decent
in
yourself. Yeah. So
yeah.
last week we were the same across the board. The three of us all took Denver, San Fran, then Green Bay. Denver getting the win, San Fran losing in a mind-blowing game to the Eagles, and then Green Bay sneaking out a win, I would say.
I woke up and all I got was the stat line for what Kittle put up in that game and didn't look at the score. And I thought San Fran's got the win with that big of a point total out of Kittle. Then it wasn't until hours later that I saw that they actually lost the game. It's mind-blowing that he put up. And you guys said on your show last night, the Average Bros Fantasy Show, you said something about all but 17 of the yards for the passing for that game went to Kittle.
Yeah, so I believe it was 17 yards that didn't go to Kittle, but the killer being and you would think, I believe Kittle was the highest scoring player of the week through FSA with 45 points, I believe it was. I'll have to double check myself on that. But over 40 points, 187 yards to Kittle. Mullins only had 200 total.
So 13 yards didn't go to him.
Yeah. So
what was the big thing there? Did I see maybe a pick six or something like that is what really hurt hurt him?
Yeah, so it was he threw 2 interceptions and had a fumble. So 3 turnovers from Mullins himself, an absolute killer. Because I believe he just barely broke 20 points fantasy wise for himself. And you would think, 200 yards, a couple touchdowns, you would do pretty well, but not this week. Yeah. Kittle was the highest scoring player in general, fantasy wise, this past week.
Hey Josh, just want to let you know, I don't know if you saw the you're not on GroupMe with us, so you did not get to see this awesome post by Damien, but he was taking snapshots of players that are on the add drop list to still be added across leagues, and Traquan Smith is still out there. I don't think too many people are taking your advice from last night on the show and running out to grab Traquan Smith. So I wanted to know, and you can do it in typing to us here, how you feel about that with him not doing that. All right, so we got Coach Bill on with us tonight. So Coach Bill gets to put his 2 cents in for the primetime games of the week. So we're going to start off with Thursday Night Football. We already talked about all of the injuries that's pretty much decimated Tampa Bay. They are playing at Chicago. Tampa Bay still favored by 3.5 points. The over-under for the game is 44.5. Bill, you are the guest tonight. How would you pick that game?
So I'm not going to pick a team to win, but I'll pick Tom Brady to lose because that's my favorite thing to watch.
Kevin, how do you feel about that?
I am on the opposite end of the spectrum. I wish no harm be done to Brady, nor Tampa Bay. I've got them winning pretty handily.
There is a reason I've got the old creamsicle hat on, and something you might be able to see, might not be able to see, is that extra image that's right there on the bill of the hat with that reflective in there. And despite all of the injuries on the team right now, there is a reason that Vegas still has them favored by 3.5. Even if they are the away team or visiting team, I am going to pick Tampa Bay for the week. All right, then we go to Sunday night football. It's Minnesota at Seattle. Seattle favored by a touchdown, 7 points. Well, we'll say touchdown on a PAT, 7 points. The over-under of this one is 57.5, so they expect it to be a high-scoring affair. Coach Bill, what do you say?
Well, it's hard to not pick Seattle the way they've been playing this year. But, hey, let's make it interesting. I like the Vikings.
Oh, mark that one down. Kev, who do you like?
So up until 2 seconds ago, I also had the Vikings, and not for the reason to go against Bill, but I'm thinking to myself, if this game was played at 1 o'clock, that I would think that the Vikings have a chance. But I forgot that we have Mr. Prime Time or lack thereof in
Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins, so I will not be taking him in a primetime game whatsoever. I've got Seattle.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins, if you don't know what Kevin's referring to, has never won a primetime game in his career. So he's got that monkey on his back, and I think it's going to stay there. Plus, if I don't want to sleep on the couch after this weekend's games, I have to pick Seattle because that is the Whites team. So I will be picking Seattle in that one as well. And then Monday Night Football, we got the Chargers at the Saints. I know your brother Josh is out there. He's probably would say that he's picking the Saints, but we don't care about him tonight because he's not here. But we do care about Coach Bill. He's here. So who do you like in this one?
So, I do have Traquan Smith and Kamara in Dynasty. So Saints all the way.
Saints all the way. At least somebody's listening to Josh out there, even if you already had the player before he said to go pick him up. Kev, what do you say? Oh, I didn't give the – did I give the over-under? I did not. The Saints are favored by 7.5, and the over-under is 50.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to stick with the theme there. I'm going to take the Saints. I think that I don't believe Michael Thomas has been ruled one way or the other, in or out. Same with Jared Cook, the tight end, has not been ruled in or out just yet. But regardless, what they've, I don't need either of them to win. If I've got Kamara to catch everything that comes his way, and then you still have to respect the deep ball that Traquan Smith does bring. And by deep, I mean 20 yards for Breeze. So, we talked about, the checkdowns. No one has done it better in the past 2 seasons than Breeze, I believe, as far as just getting that second read, regardless of the play depth, and just run up those 11, 12, 13 play drives. I take the Saints in this one.
So Josh did mention that it's still questionable for both of them. Yeah, I think the last that I read for Thomas is it's leaning more towards he's not going to probably play. Rocky's asking if Hunt's going to play for Cleveland. I believe so because Nick Chubb is out, right? And I don't think Hunt has any looming injuries that's going to keep him out. But I do know that they've got a third back there now that he's been a big waiver wire pickup for the week.
Well, I believe that Hunt is, I believe this is now his second week rolling with the questionable tag. I believe he will play. I think it's one of those things where, hey, he's got an ailment and missed a day of practice, so they have to list him as questionable. But he played the whole game last week, so I doubt that you'll see him sit out a week.
And Chris Simpson says hi. Chris, we'll make sure that we give you a shout out because I know it's like I can't even do the math, 2 o'clock in the morning over there across the pond, I believe. So appreciate you joining us, man. Let's see. What did Damien say here? do you guys take into account this game will likely be moved to a different location because of the hurricane? So I am not going to claim like I knew that there was a hurricane coming at all because I haven't paid attention to the news. So there is a hurricane, huh?
Yep, there is a hurricane, and I believe the plan as of now, I don't know if they made the move official, but as Josh mentioned there, to play in Indy instead
Interesting.
of playing in New Orleans. But I don't think that's going to matter, especially this year. I would say normally it may have a chance to affect the game, moving to a neutral site. But the fact that there's no fans in New Orleans anyway, that I don't think that dome has an effect on them. So, regardless, I think the Saints still pull it off.
It's interesting that they go to Indianapolis. I wonder what the thought process is behind to go there versus anywhere else.
Neutral site, close to where the teams already are. That way, you still have a closer home field for the Saints not having to travel as far. I would assume it's kind of right there for them to come down.
Yeah,
And not being a
maybe.
home team. So
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm glad, Josh. Appreciate that. Thanks for putting that out there. I honestly did not, Damien. I had no idea that there was a hurricane coming, so I appreciate that as well. So does it take into account and does it change my mind? No, I still, just like what Kev said, I still think the Saints get that. So um, this is the first official week of buys that were already originally on NFL schedule. So Green Bay and Detroit are off this week. So make sure you're checking your lineups for that and adjusting, which leads me into don't forget to set your lineups this week. And if you're in the QB54 arm and leg league, please don't forget to set your backups. Because there is a chance that we're going to have ties. We've had, I think, a total of 3 to 5 already this year. So make sure you are setting that backup player. Bill, how are you doing in that one? I forget. You're 3-1.
Yeah, doing okay. I tell you, I didn't appreciate the arm and leg scoring when I picked Kyler Murray. He's a great quarterback, but he runs for half his touchdowns. It doesn't do anything for you. I might drop Kyler Murray in arm and leg. We got to throw touchdowns. I don't know.
You're in the AFC. Yeah, you and your dad are both in the AFC, right?
Yep.
Please go ahead and drop Kyler Murray. I will take that all day. I will take that all day.
All right, better watch the transactions.
Chris says, I can't believe I won an arm and leg. An arm and leg league game because we already know Chris hates kickers and doesn't believe that they're humans. So yeah, congratulations.
Well, that's just
Chris,
science. He's right.
And so we are going to make some adjustments. I like the arm and leg league. I think we're going to keep it around for another season, but we're going to probably make slight adjustments in the scoring for next year. Might help the quarterbacks out a little bit. I still don't know if we're going to grant them any points for doing anything with their legs, but we are going to help take some of that negative away, add some decimal points to both theirs and the kickers' scoring, and give some negatives to the kickers as well. So maybe we won't have as many ties next year. Doing something a little bit different because we can do this in the arm and leg league because we're only counting touchdowns. I think I can use MFL's scoring system. I'll just tell you all right now what I'm thinking. Quarterback throws a touchdown. However many yards that touchdown is, they're going to get that extra point as a decimal. So let's say quarterback throws a 13 yards touchdown. The touchdown is going to be worth 6.13 points. They throw a 99-yard touchdown, it's going to be 6.99. Not a whole lot of points, but it'd be enough to break the ties and then give them a little something extra with that touchdown. Maybe reducing the interceptions from -3 to -2, actually penalizing kickers for missing, and then adding decimal points into their scoring as well. So we're not just looking at 3, 4, 5. We're looking at 35-yard field goal being 3.5 or a 39 being 3.9, kind of like we already use in the FSA scoring system now. So just put that out there for everybody to think about. Next week's broadcast, we will be back on 14 October at 8:30. Before we do that, though, we're going to have our happy hour over on Zoom on the 11th of October, just before the 8:20 kickoff between the Chargers and the Saints, whether they're playing in New Orleans or in Indianapolis. And then after that, on the 13th of October at 8 o'clock, we will have the Average Bros Fantasy Show back with Kevin and his brother Josh. Any special things that you guys are going to come up with for us this week?
I don't know. Why don't we both be surprised for that when that comes around?
I like that. Thank you, everybody, for watching the show, whether you watched us on Facebook or YouTube tonight. Make sure you go out, like, subscribe to all of our social media stuff. I think it's going to pop up here across the bottom here in just a second. My finger doesn't go down that far anymore because there's a square down there and Coach Bill's head's in the way. Oh, there we go. That's pretty cool. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. So that's all of our social media and our website right there. Don't forget, we are in the business of getting jerseys made for you. If you would like one for your fantasy team, let us know. We'll make that happen. And then we would like to thank all of our sponsors, QB54 for being our arm and leg sponsor, Finger Lakes Mercantile for being one of our bowl sponsors, Football Darts for being our broadcast sponsor, Nature Coast Tailgating for being our World Championship sponsor, and then all of our other bowl sponsors, Cranky Veteran Candle Company, Southern Cider and Sugar Scrub, Deep South Creations, and as always, thank you to the Recast, who are the official music of the FSA. You guys got any parting words for the crowd tonight?
Nothing from myself. Just want to remind everybody to, once again, set your lineups, watch the buys. Do not pick up Traquan Smith. Won't help you any. And I will see everybody on Tuesday.
Bill, you got anything for us?
Great chatting with you guys. This was fun.
Yep.
Thanks, FSA.
So I've got to show it one more time. There is the FSA Lions jersey. Bill, very much appreciate allowing us to be a sponsor with you all. So will we be able to get any highlights of the FSA Lions after your first game this Saturday?
Yeah, so I'm going to try to get a couple videos and give us time to process them before the broadcast next week.
All right, cool. You want to come back on and give us if you have the opportunity, come back on and give us an update of how we did?
Yeah, it'd be great.
That'd be awesome. All right, cool. Well, then we will see you all back next week on the 14th of October at 8:30 p.m. East Coast time. You all have a great evening. Good night, guys.